Good afternoon and welcome back to Questioning Sense with me, Matt. I hope you guys are well. It's been a while, it's been a week. Yeah, it's all good. Everything's fine here. I hope everything's going swimmingly with you. Right, got a lot to get through, bizarrely, considering we're only talking about 2 perfumes. Now, this was going to be one of those versus videos. And then I thought, no, I really like both fragrances, and to be honest, I can't really separate them. So one versus the other would be a bit pointless. So today we're going to be talking about 2 from the house of Kenzo. So here we have the new one, which is a 2022 release, which is Kenzo Homme EDP. And then we have from 2021, Kenzo Homme Intense, or O Intense, I think Kenzo Homme Intense, and this is the EDT. Now, one is a big bottle, one is a small bottle. Why have I got a big one and a small one? Well, this was a tactical move when purchasing, simply because I can't tell them apart. So I know the Intense EDT is the little one and the EDP is the bigger one. Now, I need to really get into these because they're fascinating fragrances, and they're both by rather, sort of illustrious perfumer that is Quentin Biche. Now, Quentin is very much the man of the hour. He's sort of coasting along, not coasting along, that's wrong. He's sort of, I don't know, he's enjoying a lot of success because he makes bloody good perfume. And everyone seems to quite like something that he's done. Now, obviously, he is responsible for Ganymede. Now, Ganymede, as you well know, if you watch this channel, was a fragrance that's taken me a long time to love, but now I love it, I do. And also, for probably the most hyped fragrance of God knows how long, this one, Bois Imperial, or Bois Imperial. This is fantastic. Now, this really, really took off, especially in the UK fragrance community. Everyone became quite obsessed with it really quickly, and for a lot of good reasons. It's cheap, it's beautiful, the performance is excellent, it's modern, it's interesting, and it's rather bloody lovely. There is a full review of it below. Now, interestingly, what I will say is I rate these as much as I rate Bois Imperial. I know, that's a big thing to say, but I stand by it. They're both as good as Bois Imperial. They cost around the same, both of them, as Bois Imperial. You get the bigger bottle, which I think is about £70, or the smaller bottles are around the £50. All of them, in terms of cost, you're not going to get better. But just be aware, Kenzo have got a lot of fragrances out there, and it's a bit of a minefield. So, for example, there's this one, which is the Homme EDP. It's very much a fruity fragrance, and it's completely different to these 2. So if on the back of this review you're looking to blind buy or purchase one, be aware there's lots out there that look like this, but they're not them. And then I've got another one which is slightly rarer, and this is the Boisé. This is very difficult to come by, and it's a beautiful, sweet, woody affair, but it's hard work to find. So again, please don't confuse that with the others. I am a bit of a Kenzo fanboy. I've also got this, which I still need to make a video out of, although this one wasn't by Quentin Biche. This is Kenzo Jungle Elephant, and this is a beautiful, this is a Dominique Ropignon creation. Kenzo, to me, are one of the best designer houses out there. I think you've got Kenzo, you've got Comme des Garçons, and Costume National. These are the 3 houses that I think are putting out, and have been for a long time, the most exciting designer fragrances on the market. You're always going to get something interesting from these guys. They're not following trends, they're setting their own trends. So all of those 3 houses I thoroughly recommend you explore. But at the risk of getting sidetracked, we need to get back to these 2. Just one other thing, I noticed that sort of Quentin's been kind of accused of being a bit of a one-trick pony, and I understand why people are accusing him of that, because obviously he uses Akigala wood a lot, and a lot of his fragrances seem to have a bit of a connection to each other. I think I look at that more of a signature and a DNA rather than anything, especially if you look at something like Desert Suave, which there is a full review of below. This is another Quentin Biche fragrance, and it smells nothing like anything on the table. So there are some fragrances that he's done that are completely out there. And a quick word on the bottles. These are inspired by bamboo that's been sliced by a Japanese katana. So there you have a little bit of a Japanese connection to these fragrances. But they look, I'm not sure if I like the bottles or not. They're a pig to take a photo of, I can tell you that. But they are pretty much exactly the same. They're kind of glass and plastic. I think they use recycled materials to keep the weight down and be a little bit more environmentally friendly, which is lovely. Now, in all honesty, I don't know where to start. So if we look at the EDT first, that would probably be the best way to go. So if we look at the EDT first, I keep doing, I feel like Ronnie Corbett. If we look at the EDT first, that's probably the best way to go. It's an aquatic-ish. The notes are C notes: calypsone, pink pepper, spices, fig, fig tree, vetiver, sandalwood, akigala wood, and patchouli. And yeah, you can pretty much smell all of these in there. Both of them, and this one, you know, they're both incredibly modern in their composition, so they're pretty out there. Ash from Gents Hence did a review of this one, and he really didn't like it. I love it. I think this is awesome. And don't forget, this is an EDT. Both of these fragrances, by the way, have got blistering performance. They're both up there with this one, all right? They're absolute beasts. But with this one, you've got more of a breezy aquatic opening to it. It's salty, it's airy, it's a little bit odd smelling, and it's a little bit unique, especially in the opening, which is why I quite like it. It can be described as confused, but I think it's setting the stall out to bring in these other notes. Just when you think you've got a real kind of breezy sea, airy aquatic fragrance on, then you'll start getting some woodiness and the spices will start coming through, and then all of a sudden it gets a bit sweet and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And then it starts to dry down and it starts becoming a little bit more traditional. You get the sandalwood vibe coming in. And at this point, this is where this fragrance is phenomenal to me. It really does remind me of that classic Santal 33, but only in the dry down, not in the opening. And when it goes a bit like Santal 33, you've got none of that annoying pickly notes or anything like that. You've kind of got Santal 33 with the patchouli really ramped up, and a little bit of vetiver. And I think it's quite grown up. It's incredibly modern, and it's so much stronger than I thought it was. The first time I wore this out to the pub, and it was a beautiful summer's afternoon. There was me, my wife, and a load of friends, and we meeting more friends. I was sitting outside at the table having a lovely chat. And then some friends came to meet us. I'm touching my face again. Some friends came to meet us, and the first thing one of them said was, "Cool, it smells very perfumey over here." And obviously, you know, all fingers were pointing to me, and I was guilty because I didn't think I'd oversprayed it either. I think I put a couple of, like, you know, sort of 4 or 5, 6, maybe 6 sprays. Filled up the pub garden, which was a bit awkward. One thing I will say about this presentation, though, the lid on this does not like going back on once it's come off. You've got to be very careful with it. Do not try and pick these up by the cap. But yeah, enough about the presentation. I mean, they're pretty bottles, but they're pretty weird as well. So in terms of performance, the EDT is a beast. It screams out, it fills rooms, and it seems to last for eternity, especially on my skin. I really, you know, in terms of an EDT, I don't think I've come across many that can keep up with it in terms of performance, but really, really good. But this is a difficult one because not a lot of places carry it, so it's a difficult one to sample. I would always, if you're going to blind buy it, and I think some of you probably will, just get the smaller one, and then if you ever run out of it, then you can get a bigger one next time, because it's, I don't know, there's something about that mix of C notes in the opening that some people are going to find a little bit confused and a little bit unlovable. I think it's brilliant, but if you know me, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know I have quite weird tastes. It's a great frag though. Everyone that I know that like perfume, that's tried it, or I've given it for them to spray, they've really enjoyed it. They think it's a fantastic fragrance. And because it's relatively inexpensive, with absolutely great performance, if you like it, it could easily become a signature scent. It works incredibly well in the heat, and it works on a really chilly morning too. Really good stuff. It's not, I'm going to have to go down the cliche, the Matt's questioning sense cliche here. It's probably not one for the thrusters because it's not as sweet as the thrusters would like. But for me, that's one of its strengths. I quite like the fact that it has got some sweetness in the middle. You know, it's sort of, but it's not like, you know, some of the other like sweet, watery aquatics. It's not like that. It's much more grounded. It's utterly fascinating. I think it's a really, really clever fragrance. And this is the first one I got. So I was really kind of hoping that the EDP would be like a heavier version, because this one's quite light and it is quite airy, but it's incredibly strong. And then when I got the EDP, which was a blind buy, I was quite surprised, because originally when you first smell them, you think, oh, okay, they are quite similar. But when you spend time with them, they become very, very different. But definitely, if you are a fan of Quentin's work and you like this, but you wanted a bit more of a fun version of this with slightly lighter on the vetiver, then this would probably be a better option for you. And as I say, cost-wise, they're comparable. Performance-wise, they're both exactly the same. They both are beasts. So there you have it. That's my kind of... I mean, I could talk about that for days. That's the problem with it, because every time you wear it, you become slightly aware of something quite different. Another reason why I love it. So for me to tell you exactly how it smells or try and paint a picture for you of what you're going to get when you spray it on skin, it's incredibly difficult, because even now, you know, you can see, if I hold it up to the light, you can see I've got through quite a bit of that, and I still, to this day, don't feel like I fully understand it, purely because I think, because it's full of modern aroma chemicals, your skin, the environment you're in, everything's going to have a bearing on how it plays out that day. I don't think I've ever worn a fragrance that's quite that changeable. You know, sometimes I'm wearing it and thinking, crikey, it's really, really fruity. And other times it's almost like where the fruit starts, there's a woodiness to it. There's like a, you know, like you're putting your head in a fresh wooden like box or something like that, but with some fruit in the background that just drifts out. It's an enchanting fragrance and I love it. I'm obsessed with it, actually. It's become really, you know, I wear it an awful lot. Which I think, you know, basically means I love it, and I do. So that leads us on to this one, the EDP. Okay, so they're a little bit more secretive with the notes with regards to this one. Apparently it's C notes, leather, patchouli. That's pretty much it. This one is much more like Ganymede as opposed to White Imperial, okay? So I suppose the easiest way to think about it is this one reminds me of this one the most, and the EDP reminds me of this one the most. In fact, you could almost go as if Ganymede had a sports or an aquatic flanker, this could kind of be a bit more like it. It's not the same, don't get me wrong. If you wore that with Ganymede on, you know, Ganymede there and Homme EDP on there, you'd notice that they don't smell that much alike. But what they do is they kind of behave in the same sort of way. Now, I'm wearing this one today, but I'm going to spray a little bit more now for the purposes of the review. Now, despite the fact this has supposedly got C notes in the opening, it doesn't instantly strike you as an aquatic. It sort of comes across more like a very modern fragrance. It's like a classic gentleman's fragrance that's been made with all modern materials. There is a slight sweetness to it, but it's not by any means a sweet fragrance, but there's almost like a peppery opening with sweetness underneath it, very masculine in the opening for me. And as it goes on and on, you become more and more aware of the leather. And the leather and the patchouli come together. There's a lot more going on here though. I think there's probably some more of the Akigala wood in there. And it does so to remind me of a lighter version of Ganymede. But the thing is, with Ganymede, where you've got lots and lots of minerals in it, this one you don't have. And Ganymede's got that violet leaf, which I originally struggled with. There's none of that in that. So this is kind of like an easier to wear version of Ganymede, but it's sportier. I don't know, it's lighter somehow. Yet it's still very, very leathery. One thing, I've been saying that all day. Another thing these two have got in common is they really elicit attention. As I said, this one, when I wore it to the pub, everyone picked up on it. This one I wore to work recently and I had to pop into my IT department and I met the lovely ladies of the IT department. And because it's me, they know I'm into perfume, so, oh, what are you wearing today? I'm sorry, if you're watching this, that's not how you sound. So I popped into the IT department and we had a chat about perfume, and quite a few of them, well, in fact, 3 ladies who I was speaking to, there's only 3 of them in there, picked up on the fact that I was wearing a perfume. They all liked it. One of them wrote it down for one that they want, which is interesting because I think that this is a real masculine fragrance, but they really, really enjoyed it. And if you've got a fragrance that you think smells great, you think smells masculine and women like it, you're for sure hit there. You know, if you're looking for a fragrance and you want to go out fishing for compliments, this will do that. The performance on this one is absolutely off the hook. It's so strong. Little goes a very, very long way, and it's incredibly easy to overspray. What I will think though, possibly because it is quite a potent perfume, I think some people may go a little nose blind to it. But trust me, it hangs around forever. But it smells great. Every single stage of it, that mildly aquatic opening that leads to this kind of leathery patch. It's not heavy. It's not like a traditional really heavy leather and patchouli kind of perfume where everything's kind of thick. This is still, despite the fact it's the EDP, it's still really airy. You know, it still has a big sillage, it still projects, but it doesn't project like a wall, it projects like a fine mist. It's so good. And when it comes to price, I don't think you're going to get a better deal out there. And I really mean that. And I am obviously including this in my thought process, you know, because this is like, what, £65 or 100 mil. It's about the same price as this one. And this one, come to think of it. And I just think, in terms of value, they're both amazing. Really, really good. So this is why I couldn't do like a versus, you know, the EDP versus the EDT. Who wins in this? You know, without the risk of turning into Harry Hill fight. I think they're both fantastic. I think they're both so worth it. They are, you know, again, I have to say it, they are quite difficult to try. And I can't exactly say blind by them because they're weird and they're wonderful and they're modern and they're strange and all that kind of thing. So guaranteed some people aren't going to like them. But I love them. I think they're fantastic. I think they're absolutely awesome fragrances. And I really, really, even though this one's lid does my head in, cap does my head in, I just think they're such a great addition to my fragrance wardrobe. And they're both going to get such a lot of wear. And they're interchangeable. You know, the idea that you'll wear the EDT on a warm day and the EDP on a cold day, you can swap them around, wear whichever you want. They both seem to work really, really well all year round. Just, I don't know, there's something breezy about both of them. Even the heavier EDP still feels quite breezy when you wear it. So in terms of who can wear them, anyone. Any age, maybe not your thruster, because they're not sweet. But I think, you know, anyone, male, female, animal, vegetable, mineral, could smell brilliant wearing these fragrances. Highly, highly recommended. And especially, I mean, if you're a fan of Quentin's work and you like Ganymede and you like Bois Imperial, you are probably safe to blind buy. But there you go. Always try them if you can. But, you know, the Kenzo, so they're quite tricky. Anyway, I'm sure this video has left you more confused than when you started watching it. So for that, I do apologise. Difficult to contain my enthusiasm with these beautiful fragrances. So there you have it. That's Kenzo Homme EDP and Kenzo Homme Intense EDT. Bloody brilliant. Anyway, thanks very much for your time. Cheers, thanks, and bye.